Hi, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the ShopNotes Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Huber, joined with the usual cast of suspects, Logan and John today. And we have a very special episode today. We're going to be digging back to one of our favorite segments called What Grinds Your Chisels? We're also going to give a little project update on what's been going on. Logan just finished an issue of Popular Woodworking, so we'll get a update on that issue that you can look forward to as well. A couple of comments from last week's podcast where we shared a photo of some of the tools that one of our listeners and viewers sent in. So one guy says the mystery hammer looks like a drift a blacksmith might use. Another question or comment was he's looking forward to the antique wood hand plane restoration project. Two of those tools that were sent in were, one was a rabbet plane, a skew rabbet plane, and another was a four plane. So I think we'll look at that on a video on what we can do to get those back up and running. Because this guy says he has an ancient plane that my grandfather used in his earlier days that I'd like to restore. So I think that's kind of cool because I think there's something to be said for old tools that you just sort of Cracker Barrel onto the wall and just have as a reminder, and they serve as shop art. But it's a whole nother level, I think, when you can put those tools back into use. I think the tools want to be used. So another guy says that maybe the hammer is for ring making. Any of you, after you saw him, Logan, did you see that any of those tools ring a bell for what they could have been?
I think that hammer is a tinner's hammer, I think. So somebody that would be doing like sheet metal work, like
all right.
You think of like early ducting and stuff. I think that's what it is. I just don't think it's heavy enough to be a blacksmith hammer, like a drift. I think it's too small scale. The head on it kind of looks like a cobbler's hammer, but I don't know what the punch end would be for, so that doesn't make sense to me. So a tinner's hammer is what I'm going with, but I have been wrong many, many, many times. So
yeah, the mushrooming on the head makes me think either it's not a tinner's hammer or they were pounding too hard or using it for something else.
It was not a blacksmith hammer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I mean,
somebody originally thought it was a blacksmith hammer.
Right. Yeah. So.
Well, it's the whole thing, like, if all you have is a hammer, then everything is a nail.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, the one aluminum two-pronged tool thing kind of looked like a handheld garden weeder to me, maybe, but I can't think of any woodworking or other uses for it.
Well, you kept calling it a pickle fork, Logan.
Yeah, like in the automotive industry, a pickle fork is like it's a tool used to like pry parts, I guess.
Yeah.
Think of like prying a wheel bearing off or a stuck rotor or something, and that's what it appears to me. But again, that's just a complete guess. There is a name on it, so we could probably look up the name and maybe get some idea. I didn't dig into it that far.
Right.
But that's to me, the construction seems like it is a prying type tool. It very well could be a weeder, like a hand weeder, like John said, because you could stab it and lever it.
It just seemed weird for being if it's for a mechanical thing being aluminum like that.
Yeah.
It feels like that would be too soft for.
It was it wasn't sharp it was just very rounded and I don't know.
Are you sure it's aluminum?
It kind of had the feel of like pot aluminum.
You guys talk amongst yourself. I'm going to go get it because I have an aluminum magnet that we can check that with.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, those are
do
rare.
Metallurgy on this thing.
Yeah.
What's the melting temperature?
I would say a MAP gas torch should melt it if it's aluminum.
Yeah.
Sacrifice it so we can figure out what the tool is.
Thankfully, being part of a magazine that creates all sorts of shop jigs, we have an ample stash of rare earth magnets.
Yeah.
Except when you need them.
Except when you
Right.
need them.
Then you can't find them
They're not
anywhere.
usually that rare.
So nope.
Nope, that's a no.
Yeah.
So
But
it's not
I don't know.
Ferris.
The shape of the prongs, how they're kind of rounded, makes me think it's some sort of prying tool. But then,
Well, that's what I mean.
it's like the handle. It's like, what is it?
Okay, talk
you're not
amongst
getting a lot of
yourselves.
leverage.
Okay.
I think Logan is physically going to Google.
It's the Google of things. It's the
Yeah.
it's the new deal here.
Yep. He went to go get his pickle fork out of the fridge.
Right. Because you just leave it right in the pickle barrel.
You just
'cause then
leave
you
it in
don't
the
have
jar.
to worry about it. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it's got a rounded. So for those, I'll put another photo of it on the show notes page for today.
Oh, but see.
Oh yeah, see,
But your prongs are very sharpened.
Screwdrivery at the
You
flat-
can
at
wedge
the end.
into something, where these are more rounded. The bottom's
Yes.
flat, so you think it would rock on that surface.
Yes. But it seems like a prying device, though, right?
Yeah,
it does seem like a
of some
prying
sort.
device because you have this very rockery.
But it's not like you're going to put that flat on a surface and have any kind of leverage with
Yeah.
the shape of the handle.
No,
Right.
that's
I don't
true.
know.
What's the name on it, Phil? We're going to Google this damn thing.
Okay, well here's the deal.
You can't see it? You can't read it?
Yeah, I gotta
He's
have
gotta
my
get his
old man
bifocals.
glasses on. All right,
The
you
lighting
ready?
is in there. It's terrible.
Yep.
It says Markle, Markle. Patent pending. Detroit, Michigan.
Ooh. It's got to be from the car industry then.
That's what I'm saying, a pickle fork.
Yep. Or from the Motown music.
Okay, so get this.
All right.
It's a tuning fork.
Dang it, I
maybe.
hate it when John's right. Markle, Michigan, the Markle Tool Company in Michigan made aluminum gardening tools. So I'm going to say John is on the right track there.
It's a dandelion puller.
Uh-huh.
Nate, if you're editing this, can you add a point to my window here?
Ping! That would be awesome.
Points will be tallied at the end.
Right.
That's funny because I think you are absolutely correct with your assumption, John.
Let's see.
I can't actually find like a image of it, but there are other aluminum tools. They were called the Featherlight Garden Tools
Okay.
by Dorothy F. Markle and Harry C. Markle. In case you guys are wondering. So, not related to Meghan Markle, if you are questioning that, as I was.
Good to know.
Right. I thought that would have been in the book then.
Yeah. Yep.
Gardening tool heiress.
So, I think the mystery can be put to rest.
No, I think it still goes on. I still think there's probably a Meghan Markle connection to it. We got to get Henry Louis Gates in here and do like a Finding Your Roots to see if we can get some kind of a connection between this.
So it appears as though they are from the 40s.
Okay.
So,
All right. So I'm going to bequeath this then to our brethren and sistren over at Garden Gate Magazine then.
I would.
Give them the aluminum pickle fork / dandelion puller.
Dandelion fork.
Yep. All right. Myths busted on the Shop Notes podcast today. That's why you tune in every week. That's why we do this. All right. In other big news, after this is a project that I thought would take a lot less time, but I am today, and by the time this podcast airs, I will be done with my first large project of 2023. Now, granted, it's a carryover from 2022. It's the sideboard.
It is also, and maybe more importantly, your first popular woodworking project.
It is, yes. So I am going to be cross-published. I don't know what the word is for that, but
yeah.
So it's a sideboard, mid-century modern style, out of some sweet, sweet black walnut.
The sweetest black walnut.
Yeah. So I think...
Yeah, word on the street is that Logan has the best walnut.
Right.
That's
what I've heard from Dylan and now
That's right.
Phil. So
yeah, I'm
word's
basically
getting out.
Meghan Markle of walnut.
yeah, that's how I'd put it.
Is that the right way to put it?
So if you're looking for black walnut, you just dial 1-800-Chunk-a-Trunk
That's right.
and ask for Logan.
Slinging wood all over the country.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'll put a photo of the completed sideboard up on the show notes page so you can see what it looks like. I'm pretty happy with it. It's turned out super cool. If you were to come by in person before I ship this off to its new owner, I will point out all the flaws in it because it's a failing of woodworkers to do that. But it's turned out extremely well. I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah, I think it is one of my favorite pieces I've seen you build.
Oh.
Not saying that there are not favorites, but it is one of my favorites.
Right. Okay. So anyway, to go back to the sawmilling thing, I thought of you with all of the atmospheric river storms that were hitting California.
Yeah.
And there were several articles about the number of trees that have been toppled by all these storms from having super dry ground, then getting a ton of rain. And I was thinking, like, I wonder, like, how much is Logan, like, finding his truck keys in his pocket to be able to drive to California and saw redwoods that had toppled and bring them back here?
When somebody within our company gets sick of me enough that they fire me, I will be doing that full time. 100%. I will be storm chasing with the sawmill. Absolutely. I will be in Florida for the hurricanes. I will be in California for the torrential downpours. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, storms are a fact of life, but to have some redwood would be some sweet vegan woodworking.
Well, and I feel like we've talked about that. Like, at some point in the next couple of years, will hook up with one of my guys in, like, Washington and California, Oregon, that I know that do a lot of big burl and stuff.
Yeah.
And I will bring my gooseneck trailer out there and haul home a trailer full of redwood logs, because I agree. Like, how cool would that be to... I mean, they're not going to be huge. They're not going to be, like, massive old growth ones.
No. But still.
Just nice redwoods. I mean, come on, man. Like...
Yeah.
Yeah, can we get redwood here in Iowa from our dealer? Do they sell
I don't think we can.
I don't know.
That would have to be some sort of special order.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I feel like I looked at it because one of the, and I might have said this a couple weeks ago, one of the first projects I'm doing when the shop's done is going to be a cedar strip canoe. It's kind of been something I've always wanted to build, something I've wanted to build for the magazine. And I thought about a redwood canoe. Like, that would be cool. Yeah. And I feel like I looked at Liberty to see if they could get redwood, and I don't think they can. I'm on their website. It does not say that they can. So I think it would have to be one of those, like, super specialty type things.
Yeah.
You know, I think back 35, 40 years ago, you could. Like, most trim was made out of redwood because it was really long and really nice to cut.
So. Well, and I remember my dad, when he first started getting woodsmith, he built a couple of planters and made them out of redwood. Because, like, even in Wisconsin, he could find it, and it was not too difficult to find. And it was, I mean, he still has those planters. They're for sure 30, I mean, they're older than that, 35, 40 years old. And have lived outdoors. I think the glue has failed on a couple of them, and he's just re-glued them or pinned them, put like white oak dowels or something in there just to keep it going. But they're fantastic, and it's a great, cool looking plan too. So,
I mean, just a quick Google search tells me, like, there are places you can order redwood from. Now, a lot of them are going to be like, kind of, think of like pergola size stuff.
Yeah.
So, 4x6s and stuff like that. I don't want to know what the price would be on some of this. I have to imagine that me bringing a 30,000-pound trailer out there with my truck and hauling logs home has to be cheaper per
I would think so.
At the end of the day. So.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
When I lived in Chicago, there was a lot of buildings that were getting converted into loft apartments and stuff. And a lot of the buildings there had water tanks on the top of the building for their fire suppression systems.
Yep.
And they were all redwood. So there was kind of a thriving trade for a while of reclaimed redwood from all these water towers.
Yep. I have a little bit of redwood here. We have used some of it for a couple of projects. I had some from my brother. He for a couple of years, he worked for a company that was re-roofing Menards, and he went to one, I don't remember where he went, but they had the same thing. They had a water tank that they tore off before they re-roofed it, and he brought a couple pieces home for me. Then I got some from a school here in town that was like the railing around their pool or something like that. As it was all those little short pieces I had with holes in it and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because we did, Woodsmith did a lantern, like a candle lantern project. And I think I did the video of that using some redwood from that. So
This lantern.
yes, that lantern.
So, yeah. Yep, just beautiful. This is old growth redwood. I mean, there has to be 20 growth rings per inch on that.
Oh, yeah?
So and redwoods are fast growing tree, so that's definitely some old growth stuff, which is super awesome.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
yep.
All right, now you shared last week, Logan, that you had your golfer's elbow bothering you.
Yeah,
from that. I will say that in some sympathy, I've had some trouble with my left thumb, like right at the base of it.
Yeah.
Just like I can feel it sore right in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I started on an old man regiment of 2 Aleve with my coffee every morning. And that seems to be helping. What doesn't help is framing a bunch and then saying, oh, I'm really sore, I'm not going to frame. Instead, I'm going to go run my sawmill for 12 hours. That does not help. And I did that on Saturday, so that was not a good life choice. But, when the ashes fall, the need rises.
Yeah.
So
You got to be lifting with your back, not with your elbows.
It's funny. I didn't lift a damn piece of lumber the entire day. All I did was stand there and push the mill, but what it was the cranking up and down of the saw head.
Oh, yeah.
Never have I wanted a powered saw head more than Saturday. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah. Don't get old. That's what you don't do.
Yep. The good news is, at this rate, you're going to be parking your truck and mill in the handicap parking spots pretty soon.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
you've earned it.
Yes,
You've earned it.
that's true. Yeah. No, framing is almost done, though, so hopefully I'll stop being a little whiny guy in a couple of weeks, because stop swinging the hammer.
Yeah. There is something about framing and doing DIY work where you're doing that kind of stuff or up and down ladders that your body just aches because like you're not normally using those muscles.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're using them a lot or it's like swinging hammers or roofing or that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, it's like normal woodworking stuff doesn't bother me at all. Mm-hmm. But it's the like, framing up an 8-foot wall, then standing it up, and then climbing up the ladder 12 times, and then, walking around for 30 minutes yelling at myself because I can't find one of the 6 pencils I set down.
Struggle.
On what, Monday? Monday was we were closed Monday. So Monday I decided to finish framing up the office. So some of the last walls I needed to build were the office walls, and I'm gonna have one little divider wall in there, kind of like our shop does, to put the saw up against.
Yeah.
But the office one was one of the main things to finish up, and the office has a small loft above it. So the office and bathroom ceilings are like 9.5 foot. So there's like a 3.5, 4 foot loft above them, which is going to be great for storage, and it's a big area. I'm glad that I decided to frame that out. But lifting, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get some like thin OSB for the flooring up there because it's just storage, right?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, you know what? Like my kids might get up there and they might use it as like a little hangout area, like whatever. So if I'm in the office like podcasting or working, I don't want to hear stuff flexing or whatever. So I'm like, I'm just going to get 3/4 inch tongue and groove OSB. It's like $20 a sheet. It's not that expensive. MFers are heavy, and I had to get them up there by myself. So I was carrying them in on my head, right? Like I'm holding the sheet. They're resting on my head. I had my hat on. I now have a bruise on the top of my head from that little button on the hat. And trying to carry those up the ladder to get them on top of the loft area was ridiculous. Not my brightest moment in my life. So should have just waited till I had help this weekend. But you know what? Mama didn't raise a wiener. So
yeah. 10, 15 years ago, you probably just would have carried over your head and then just chucked it up there.
No,
you had to climb a ladder.
I tried that, and I now have one piece of flooring that's a broken corner because it slid off. I can get it to like just kind of right up there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna shove it really hard and see if it flies up there. Mm-hmm. And it flew up there, and then it kind of started teetering, and then it fell back down.
Yeah,
it's like, oh.
It's probably because you were throwing it right into the wind.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Why.
So what do you have for insulation in there? Is it just fiberglass, or are you doing...
I'm doing roll bats, yeah. One of our one of the advertisers we work with a lot is Panta Router, and I know everybody that listens has heard me talk about how much I love the Panta Router, but the owner of Panta Router, Mac Sheldon, he used to be in the spray foam industry, like back in his working day. I mean, he still works, but now he's kind of semi-retired running Panta Router. But he used to be in the spray foam industry, and we had dinner with him out in Portland when we were out there, and he was trying to convince me to do spray foam, and I would love to spray foam that shop. It's just the price is so cost prohibitive for what the building is costing already. Like, I mean, part of me is like, well, if you're doing it, you might as well just do it. But at the same time, I'm like, am I going to gain that much off of it? And the roll bat insulation, so I'm doing R19 on the walls, which is a 6.5 inch insulation. It's fiberglass bat. I think the insulation for the entire like woodworking half of the building is like $2,300, so it's not that bad.
Right. And
that's with the bag insulation for the ceiling.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be blown in cellulose insulation.
Okay.
So it's. Would spray foam be better? Yeah, and the big thing I think with spray foam is that it stiffens the entire building, but it adds a lot of sound dampening as well, and it's an air. They actually say that spray foam isn't as good of insulator as insulation, but what it does is it creates a air barrier, so there's no drafts. Air can't get through it, so that's where you gain a lot of your insulation value. On the flip side, though, by having bat insulation, to me, it's a lot easier to come back and add stuff later if I wanted. So, like, if I wanted to fish a wire or something like that. And because I'm only drywalling from the ceiling down 10 foot, I'm going to have 3 foot of like wainscoting around it. I could pull those panels off and pull wires then again if I needed to. So with spray foam, it would be a little bit harder to do that. I'm just trying to justify myself on making this mistake, but yeah. So
it's a safe place here. So you just had an issue go out.
Yeah, actually, I need to approve it today to the printer. So, yep, it is sent off. I just need to approve a couple final corrections. Fun issue. I'm excited about this issue because over the last year or so, I have kind of spent a lot of time traveling to contributing writers doing photos with them. And now I'm getting a lot of those projects kind of into the mix. So it's kind of fun seeing, projects I was, in somebody's shop shooting with them, kind of come to fruition through the magazine and stuff. So we have building a wooden spoke shave. So a round bottom wooden spoke shave using a Ron Hawk blade, which Ron Hawk just announced he's retiring.
Oh, really?
Sold the company to Lee Valley.
Oh.
So you heard it here first, folks. So the spoke shave build, we have a Stickley number 630 drop leaf table. So it's like a little side table, 2 drawers, drop leaves on both sides. Originally, Stickley sold it as a sewing table, but it's kind of a nice like side table type size. That's by the Arts and Crafts master Willie Sandry out of Portland. Then we have a veneered chessboard by Scott Grove, kind of one of the premier veneer guys in the world. So we did a veneered chessboard. It's on an MDF core, but it has black and white dyed checkers, a curly mahogany border around it, and then some mother of pearl inlays. So that will be a really nice one. It turned out really good. And finally, we have this one's kind of not necessarily a project, but it's a technique that I shot with Charles Brock. People might recognize him. He runs the YouTube show, The Highland Woodworker series. So he travels around and kind of interviews and runs that little thing. But Charles is also really well known as a chair maker. Chuck was started teaching at Highland Woodworking in Atlanta. He actually was asked by Chris Bagsby, the owner of Highland, to step in and teach a Maloof rocker class because Sam Maloof had to cancel it. So they had a bunch of people signed up, and he's like, hey, I want you to come in and teach a Maloof rocker because Sam canceled his own class. So Chuck is really well known for his sculpted rockers. Very, very good woodworker. So this is building a coopered seat. So this is how you make that kind of scooped style, Windsor style type seat. But you do it via coopering. So there's a whole lot less grinding. Like when we did the Welsh stick chair, you dish that out with a grinder, and it makes a mess, and it's a lot of work. This is a cool technique where you bevel everything, you make a coopered seat, but by making a coopered seat, you can actually bandsaw away most of the waste. So then you just have very little shaping and sanding to finish it out. So, so I'm super excited for this article, or for this issue. So
nice.
Yeah. But I keep getting questions, and I keep telling people it is not a newsstand. You cannot go to Barnes & Noble and buy it. You have to be a subscriber. So it's a pretty exclusive club.
Right. True story. True story.
Yep.
You should just polybag them with Woodsmith issues on the newsstand.
Ooh. There we go. As long as I don't ride your coattails.
Right. Because newsstand people, as soon as you say polybag, their heads explode. Every time you say polybag, a newsstand rep flips her something.
Well, and let's be fair too. And this is a little look on the inside that our listeners might not be aware of. I mean, they may have subliminally noticed it, that the newsstand presence for magazines and publications is shrinking, and it has been for a number of years. Like, if you walk into a grocery store, there's no longer an aisle full of magazines like there used to be.
Oh yeah.
When I was younger, you go into like Hy-Vee, and there would be a full aisle, at least half an aisle of magazines.
Right.
And you don't see that anymore. So it's kind of shifting. So
yep,
it's an interesting beast.
Yep.
It is.
All the tabloid and celebrity magazines are hanging on tight, though, in the grocery stores.
National Enquirer still at the checkout.
The original clickbait.
Yeah.
All right, which complaining about newsstand leads us perfectly into one of our favorite segments here on the ShopNotes podcast of What Grinds Your Chisels, which for those of you who we haven't done one in a while, for good reason, because it's a lot of rage, is what we talk about as the things in the woodworking or woodworking industry that really just kind of drive you nuts. And they're very subjective, which makes it perfect fodder for a segment like What Grinds Your Chisels. For example, for me, my perennial one is cordless tools and the cost of cordless tool batteries.
Yep.
Because there's no explanation for it. Zero explanation.
Well, it's like the up-and-coming electric cars. The lithium has to go somewhere.
Right.
It's going to car batteries.
Yeah.
I thought it was more like a drug dealer thing. It's like, here's the tools for free. But, you come back for the batteries. That's when it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to power those tools? We got you.
Although, to be fair, having been around as long as I have, I remember cordless tool batteries not lasting that long, and so you just kind of chucked them. But I have a Bosch 12-volt little drill driver, and that bad boy is for sure 12 years old, I think. And it just chugs along. Like, the batteries still take a charge. Mm-hmm. I've gotten some new batteries for it just because I wanted a little more capacity. But the original batteries, they don't last as long, but it still works. So it's been pretty handy to keep that around.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm like slowly switching my. I've been on a Ryobi system for the longest time. I know we get hate. We've got hate in the past when we talk about that. But I've been on Ryobi, and I have a couple things that have started to die. Like, the actual tools died. Falls off 14-foot ladders may have had something to do with it. Some of my batteries have just stopped taking charge. So I'm like, okay, it's maybe time I start looking at a different system. Just because we did a 12-volt drill driver test in PopWood and got a lot of different drivers in. I really like the DeWalt stuff, but I also bought a Milwaukee 18-volt impact driver, and I really like that too. But you're right. It's like, you get the tool for free, but the batteries, that's where the money is.
Yeah.
So, and that's, like we said a couple of episodes ago, that's one thing you don't usually buy secondhand because you never know what you're getting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Have either of you ever gone to the trouble of getting like the batteries rebuilt, or
No.
is that even like worth it?
I've considered it because I had, prior to this Bosch drill, I had a larger, it was a 14-volt, what was it, NiCad battery set, or drill. And I really loved that drill because it had enough power. It was what I thought was a decent size for it. And I looked into getting them replaced because you go to, a place like Interstate Battery or what's the other battery?
Batteries Plus.
Batteries Plus. And they offer to rebuild them. And I took it in, and he was like, it's going to be like $80 to redo the battery at the time.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, that doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I can almost get a new drill with the battery for that.
Right. And that was kind of the issue but I hate throwing out, because if the batteries are trash, then it's like, what do you do? Like,
Right.
You just have this dead tool hanging around.
Yeah.
So
you hotwire a plug onto it.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yes. Direct. You get one of the, it feels like that should be an aftermarket thing where it's like you have a little battery pack that's got the cord on it and it converts it DC to AC.
Okay.
You just snap it on there with the cord.
They make those, I shouldn't say they. China makes the converters.
Right.
I think the government makes them. They make the converters that convert some of the batteries to other brands and stuff. So it's like you can buy a converter to convert your DeWalt batteries to Milwaukee, or you can convert your Milwaukee batteries to a Dyson vacuum. Where you can plug it into your Dyson. So, I think that's not that far fetched, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just has to go from AC to DC.
Right.
So, yeah.
Just write it off.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
All right. So you guys got
my chisels.
What? Bring it on.
What grinds my chisels, and I'm saying this with nobody in mind, when I give somebody lumber, they ask me for lumber, and then 4 years later, they still have not used said lumber. That really grinds my chisels.
They're just banking it.
Yeah. It's an investment.
Well, and to be fair, I feel weird about it, but Dylan needed some honey locust, some locust for something. And I was like, who have I cut locusts for? It's like, I had a couple locust logs at one point. Where did those go? And I remember where they went. And I called them, and I'm like, hey, still got those locust logs? Oh, maybe. I don't know. I was like, what do you mean you don't know? So we went and got them. So I got a couple pieces of the locust back for Dylan. But, man, I could have sold that or something.
Right.
Yeah. It seems like there's a whole group of people that are just lumber hoarders. You see that on Marketplace where this old farmer, is retiring and needs to clean out this shed and it's full of lumber. From 40 years ago, and it's like, what did you think you were going to do with it? Just people get stuff at auctions and then they store it. And
now I that's why I didn't phrase it that lumber hoarders grind my chisels, because I get the obviously I get buying and trading and selling, and if you get a good deal, hey, yeah, grab it and stash it. But especially when I'm giving it to somebody,
right,
it's like, man, use it.
Right.
You use it or you lose it.
That's right. You'll come after 4 years. You come and reclaim it. I'm repossessing this.
I did.
It's a subsidiary of Chunkatrunk is a lumber repo.
Yep.
Kind of, yeah.
Just pulls up where you're at work and loads up your lumber and drives off.
Yeah.
Lumber bail bonds.
And to be fair, so I'm kind of busting Dana's balls on this, but there's a point where I help myself by just giving people lumber. It's like I get rid of it, I like to sell it, and that's how I have some play money for my nice tools and stuff, right? But there's a point where it's this was Dana, our former our retired shop craftsman, and it was one of those I had a bunch of lumber here, and he came over. He gave me a couple ash slabs from a tree I took up to Waterloo to have cut. That was his, and I had a bunch of walnut here. I'm like, hey, you want some of this? You want some of this? Elm that I had cut, and then the two locust logs I had laying here, and I'm like, they're here. I'm gonna cut them to get rid of them, but I don't want honey locust. Like it's a weird looking wood. It's very salmon colored. It's just not something I'm gonna use. But I knew Dana was using it for a table for his daughter, so I was like, hey, you want this? And then when Dylan's like, hey, do you know anybody that has any locusts? Because I need some. I was like, Dana does. And I called him. He's like, I forgot I had this. I'm like, Dana, come on, man. And then we were in his garage yesterday, and he's like, hey, yeah, there's that huge, like 3.5 foot wide piece of elm you gave me, and I don't know what these two are. I'm like, Dana, these are like my best book matched walnut that I've ever had that I gave you. You need to use this, or it's gonna get repoed.
That's a warning.
Yeah. So.
Nice.
Doesn't grind my chisels that bad, but it grinds them a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Yeah, I don't know if this is something like you can categorize as grinding your chisels, or if it's more of a shot to the ego. And it's kind of loosely woodworking related, but as a project designer, I always have to order hardware online, just finding different stuff online. So I'm like creating different accounts with these places where I'm ordering stuff, and you put in your email address, then ask for a password, and you're like, all right, I'm going to give it my best password, and you put in your password, and it's like, it's too weak. Come back with a stronger password. It's like, that's the best I had. You think I just have all these passwords? It's like, come on. It's like, what do you want from me? And then you put in another one, and it's like, it's still too weak.
We have this whole web team that specializes in like 45 character passwords.
Right.
Like, have you ever seen a Tony Claude password? Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The keyboard
it's
smash.
Like a key smash, yeah. But it's like, okay, it's going to be so strong now, I won't even remember this password.
Yeah.
It's going to be that strong that I can't even get into it. So that just happened to me before the podcast. And I was just like, oh, man, I gave you my best. What do you want from me?
That's awesome.
I mean, I will agree that online shopping, as convenient as it is, drives you nuts, because it's like you can't just buy something. You got to create an account and jump through 8 different hoops. And it's like, how about you just take the Visa like a normal store does?
Yeah.
It's all about the names.
Right.
Yep. They got to get those names. But yeah, it's like then you create such a strong password that you don't remember it. So the next time you got to create a new one.
Right.
So like, okay, I'm going to put in my strong password. And then it's like, you can't use the password you've used before. And it's like, I don't know that I use it. I've forgotten all the passwords.
Yeah.
It's like, I've only got so many passwords. And then you order something. It's like, hey, if you spend $10 more, you get free shipping. And it's like, well, I'm not paying for shipping. That's for sure. This is 2023.
Right. Not
So
an
then it's
animal.
like, but I'm not going to spend like another $50. I'm going to get the right amount. So it's like, what do I need? So it's like, oh, I can get some rare earth magnets. We'll use those. So then you end up with a bunch of rare earth magnets around the shop. So it's a struggle. You got to play the game.
Well, we face that with our lumber supplier too, where if we order X amount, then we get free shipping on the lumber. Well, I mean, there's no way that I'm taking my Ford C-Max to go pick up, 25 board feet of mahogany or something like that. So it's like, just throw a couple of sheets of Baltic birch on there. That gets us over the hump.
One sheet.
Yeah, one
Baltic
sheet.
Birch.
Yeah.
We'll just get Uber Eats.
Phil.
We'll get Uber Eats to deliver the lumber.
Yeah.
They do that now.
That's funny. Yeah. You know what else grinds my chisels? Is when a tool doesn't live up to my expectations.
All right.
Okay.
Like in terms of quality or what it's supposed to
do? Quality.
Okay.
Now, this is a common problem. The one that I'm thinking of is a common issue with most track saws. Recently got a track saw with extruded aluminum track, kind of standard track stuff. It's a bigger blade, so it has like a 4.5-inch depth of cut. So
okay.
So I got it for like breaking down slabs and stuff, like thick slabs, because a thicker than 2 inches can't cut with a normal circular saw. And I don't like chainsawing them because it just tears it up really bad.
Right.
So got I'm not gonna say the brand, but I got a track saw that can cut really deep. It's battery powered, takes 2 batteries, beautiful saw. Discovered that the 2 tracks, because they're like 5-foot tracks, right, to make a 10-foot rip cut. They have a huge bow in them, and I don't know if it's I just got a bad one, or I'm gonna go buy another set and see if they have a bow in them as well. I know this is kind of a standard issue, not a standard issue, but I know this is a common problem with a lot of aluminum track saws, because they're not milled, they're extruded, right? So as they cool, if you have more mass on one edge of the track versus the other, one edge is going to cool faster. It's an issue.
So like bow, like a lengthwise?
No, like along the cutting line.
Oh, so like crook, if it was a board.
Like a crook, yes. If it was a board, it would be a crook. That's right. So what happened was I helped a friend of mine cut. Actually, remember that big oak tabletop that I had glued up in the shop?
Oh, yeah.
I had a friend of mine. We ripped that with the track saw. And I'm thinking, the cut was beautiful. Like, the cut was so smooth. Like, I cannot complain about the quality of the cut. But then we went and put the two edges together, and there was like a, 3/8 inch gap in the center. And I'm like, that seems excessive. So started looking at it, and actually I bought on Amazon a cheap self-leveling laser level, which was like a super awesome purchase for for like doing framing work.
Sure.
And I laid that down and I put that up against it, and it is, you could see the bow in it. And I know, it doesn't really matter what quality of track you buy, because I think it was before my time at PopWood, but Colin was doing a mid-century modern like council, like a media council, kind of like what you're working on, Phil, but it was mitered, and they're trying to cut the miters with the Festool track saw.
Sure.
And they were having huge issues because the Festool one was bent as well, was bowed.
Wow.
It had a crook in it. So I think it's a common issue, but things like that, I'm like, man. Or another good example is I just bought, because I've been fighting this golfer's elbow thing. I knew I was going to be fighting this before I even picked up a hammer to start framing the shop. So I bought a electrical wire stapler. So it shoots big staples for doing wire.
Yeah.
And you can load it with a couple different sizes, so you don't have to nail in wire nails, wire staples. It doesn't work. It doesn't work worth the crap. Like, it was the biggest waste of $40 that I've ever had. and that's saying something. I bought some stupid stuff, but it's like, man, I hate it when these tools don't work like they're supposed to. Sometimes you get what you pay for, but when you pay for one of the best ones and it doesn't work still, it's like, man, this is dumb.
Yeah. Can't you do like a warranty claim on that, or?
I probably could, yes. I want to see if if maybe I just gotta, I like to give people the benefit of a doubt. I'm gonna buy another track and see if that one's bowed as well. So, might just got a bad one.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Kind of a tangent here. Harvey International. So the people that own Bridge City, they make the Harvey line of woodworking tools.
Right.
Mark Spagnolo, his channel, The Wood Whisperer, he did a miter gauge review video a couple months back, and he was looking at kind of like the highest end miter gauges, and one that had a lot of good reviews that he tried was the Harvey, the Compass miter gauge. It's expensive. I want to say it's like $600. Like, it's an expensive one.
Wow.
But he had some big issues with the one he got, And he reached out to the company to see if he could get a replacement or if something was just wrong with his. Like, hey, maybe I just got a bad one, which I think is the right way to go about it. Like, something, stuff occasionally happens. But long story short, he couldn't get a new one, so he couldn't offer a real good opinion on it. But, I like to generally just see if, maybe you just got a bad one.
Yeah.
But sometimes they just suck. Like, this stapler just sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the worst when you get something new and it's like, did I just get a bad batch of something or is it me?
Right.
Yeah.
Am I the one who can't figure it out?
Yes.
And it's usually that case. It's
Now, this is something unusual because we have a segment where we're complaining about stuff, but I will say that something that grinds my chisels is the, instant rage that people have. So, for you, for example, Logan, with your bent track, there are people that immediately start emailing or some kind of social media post or Google review or something like that where it turns it into that, the makers of said tools are the spawn of Satan. And
yeah, they're trying to crucify the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we've all had to do customer service and it's like, okay, stop, take a breath.
Yeah.
Read it again. Make sure you don't embarrass yourself because you probably missed something. And, sometimes there is some, but it's like give them a chance to either fix it or figure it out.
Right.
It's like we're all reasonable people. We're not trying to get one over on you or anything. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So just take a breath.
Just think, are you prepared to have that kind of email or comment sent to you? And how would you take that?
Yeah. Or they're they're in a huge rage and you discover something where oh, they just missed this. How do I explain it to them without making them feel stupid?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, we all make mistakes and just it's right here and
I get sick a little enjoyment when I get those customer service emails where it's like, hey, you sent this in, you realize I'm going to publish this, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
I might remove your name, but I'm going to publish it still.
Yeah.
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 So that one has definitely been bothering me. I think because we had, I don't know. Well, as the executive editor, I get forwarded a lot of comments from people, and there's just, like you've said it before, John, just keep scrolling. There's so much other stuff in the world to worry about or not worry about, and just find your center and move on.
Right. It's like I've listened to every one of your 142 podcasts, and I hate them.
Yeah.
Stop listening. Why are you doing this to yourself?
God. I get so much enjoyment out of it, though. Is there something wrong with me? I haven't gotten a good hate mail in a long time, and I'm a little disappointed. When I first started, I got it all the time.
You got so much hate when you first started, and now it's like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You must be doing something wrong.
You've just lowered the standards that nobody knows how to
They don't remember what the good years were like.
Yeah.
It's not even worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I love it.
Yeah. No, we get some about the type of projects. And I get it. Everybody has their own whatever on it, but it's I get 5 emails about how the projects are too simple and it's not real woodworking. And then I'll get 5 emails about all your projects require $500,000 worth of tools and nobody's ever going to want to try and do this kind of stuff. And it's way too complex. And how come you can't make anything out of, reclaimed pallet wood and 2x4 offcuts and stuff like that? It's like, okay, thanks.
Yep. I will say, I do at least try to respond to every email I get. There's been a few where I'm just like, I don't trust myself to send this email.
Yeah.
So
You type it all out, and then you're like, delete.
I was just saying, I got that from a friend of mine. He used to be a CFO at a print shop I worked at, and I picked up a good habit from Josh, where it's like, if you have a snappy email you're going to send, type it out, and then look at it in the next morning and see if you still want to send it. So most times it's like, yep, fire it off. Yep. Missiles away, turn both keys.
I mean, I've done that with you guys where I've sent you drafts of emails where it's like, I want to send this. I'm trying not to be a jerk, but also being a little assertive too. Where it's like, hey, settle down.
I thought you were going to say, I've had all kinds of emails I want to send you guys, but I've never sent them. They're just in drafts.
Yeah.
And you're going to release them like the day of retirement. Yep. You're just like, here you guys go. This is all the things I want to say to you.
Yep. All the pent-up rage.
Yeah. All right, you know what else grinds my chisels?
Okay.
Is when I take a measurement and I know my measurement and I cut my part to my measurement and it still doesn't fit. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where my original measurement came from. You guys ever done that?
Oh, yeah.
Because
it usually happens on a video project for me.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. I was framing on Monday, and I did all my and they're like my ceiling rafters or my floor joists for the loft or whatever. There's like 19 of them. They're 2x8s. And I took my measurements, got it so my rim board was going to be right on the outside face of the framed wall. It's going to be perfect. Drywall's going to lay right up against it. Cut them all, nail them all in with my joist hangers, toenail them all in, and then I get up there to put my rim joist or my rim plate on, and I'm like, these are all a ½ inch too long. How do you fix that when they're all nailed in place? A chainsaw. That's how you fix it.
Just notch it.
So that's what I did.
Just
I chainsawed all of them.
Yeah.
Well, I played around with the idea of just running that rim board through my planer. Like, we'll just take ½ inch off of it. I'm like, you know what? It feels right in my soul just to get my chainsaw out and cut it all off. That's what I did.
Okay.
And then there was bar oil all over.
If only you had a huge jointer.
Yeah, I know.
Man, be so nice.
All right. I think that's it for another episode of the ShopNotes Podcast. Don't forget to check out our show notes page where you can see some of the things that we've been talking about on today's episode. And also to subscribe on our YouTube channel to get not only the ShopNotes Podcast, but all the other videos that we do there as well. And if you're a podcast listener and you're just listening to the audio version only and you're not looking at our faces, we salute you and also ask that you rate and review the ShopNotes Podcast on your local podcastery so that we can get this podcast in front of other woodworkers like you. I also want to know what grinds your chisels. So if you want to leave those in the comments section on our YouTube channel or send me an email, woodsmith@woodsmith.com, that would be really great. And as always, we're trying to include a free plan with every issue or episode of the podcast. This week's plan is a furniture project, one that I've always thought was super cool. It's a hall tree, so a place to hang your coats and stash some umbrellas and other things right by the door. Also has an adjustable mirror on it as well. So it's a really cool project, 4-sided, freestanding hall tree, just the thing for an entryway and small enough to fit in a lot of houses. So you can check that out on the show notes page again or on the description that goes along with this video. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week on the ShopNotes Podcast. Bye, everybody.